6 rangers had this posting in the last 4 years. 2 quit within weeks. 1 disappeared. The other 3 won't talk about what they saw. I'm Jake Morrison, and I took the job anyway. 3 months ago, I was a wildlife biologist with the Fish and Wildlife Service. 8 years of solid research on wolf migration patterns across the northern Rockies. I had a career, a fiancée named Sarah, a decent apartment in Missoula. Then my colleague Marcus stole 2 years of my data, published it under his name, and when the investigation started, he pointed every finger at me. The evidence was circumstantial but damning. My supervisors couldn't prove I was innocent, couldn't prove I was guilty, so they did what bureaucracies do best. They let me go quietly. Sarah left 2 weeks later, said she believed me but couldn't handle the uncertainty. Her parents had never liked me anyway. The wedding invitations were already printed. 7 months of unemployment followed, savings dwindling, applications ignored. My name was mud in wildlife biology circles. I was 32 years old and watching my entire life collapse. Then I saw the posting. Backcountry Ranger, Numa Ridge Sector, Glacier National Park, housing provided, $52,000 a year, immediate start, must be comfortable with isolation. I called the same day. The drive from Missoula to West Glacier took 3 hours through some of the most beautiful country in Montana. Mountains rose like cathedral walls on either side of the highway. Late May meant the high peaks still wore snow, brilliant white against blue sky. I'd worked in remote areas before, spent months in the Alaska wilderness studying caribou, done solo field work in the Wyoming backcountry. Isolation didn't scare me. People scared me. Their betrayals, their judgments, their capacity to destroy what you'd built. The mountains were honest. They'd kill you, sure, but they wouldn't lie about it first. I met my supervisor, Tom Hendricks, at the West Glacier Ranger Station. He was 58, weathered face like cracked leather, eyes that had seen too much and decided to stop processing it. When he shook my hand, his grip was firm but his fingers trembled slightly. "You sure about this?" he asked, not meeting my eyes. "The isolation gets to people." "I've done field work in remote areas before," I said. "Alaska, Wyoming backcountry. I can handle being alone." "This is different." He finally looked at me. "You'll see." He didn't elaborate, just handed me a stack of paperwork and led me to where a helicopter sat waiting. The pilot was a Navajo woman named Maria, maybe 40, with silver threading through her black hair. She nodded but didn't smile. The flight took 40 minutes, rising over forested valleys and granite peaks. Numa Ridge was on the western edge of the park, 40 miles from the nearest road access. Below us, the forest stretched endless and dark, broken only by alpine meadows and the occasional glint of a stream. No houses, no roads, no signs of human presence except the fire lookout tower perched on the ridge ahead. Maria brought us down on a flat area 50 yards from the tower. As the rotors slowed, she looked at me. "Beautiful up here," she said, "but it doesn't like being watched." "What doesn't?" She didn't answer, just started unloading my supplies. The Numa Ridge Lookout Tower was a 2-story structure, built in 1952 according to the plaque near the door, renovated in 2015. Solar panels on the roof, satellite dish, weather station equipment. Everything looked professional, well-maintained, exactly what you'd expect from a National Park Service facility. Except for the small things. Heavy shutters on every window, unusual for a fire lookout that needed 360-degree visibility. A large supply of salt in the storage room, at least 50 pounds of iodized table salt in bags. The freezer packed with meat, way more than one person would need. A calendar on the wall still showing February, 3 months old. Tom showed me around quickly, clearly wanting to finish before dark. First floor held equipment, storage, the freezer. Second floor was living quarters, radio station, observation deck. The view was stunning. Pristine wilderness in every direction. Snow-capped peaks to the east. Dense pine forest below. Not a single human structure visible. You'll do weather monitoring, Tom said. Fire watch. Trail reports when hikers come through, though not many make it out this far. The real job is just being here. Presence matters. Presence for what? He ignored the question, moved to the windows, tested each shutter. These stay closed at night, all of them. How do I watch for fires if the shutters are closed? You don't watch at night. Fires can wait until morning. That made no sense from a safety standpoint, but I didn't argue. Tom poured a line of salt across the doorway, 2 inches wide, carefully measured. Standard procedure, he said, keeps moisture out. Salt doesn't keep moisture out, but I nodded. He checked the freezer, counted the packages of meat, 23 pounds of venison and elk. Make sure you keep this stocked. Important. For what? Just keep it stocked. His hands shook as he closed the freezer. I noticed he wouldn't go near the west-facing windows after 4 in the afternoon. Kept his back to them, oriented himself toward the east. At 5, he pulled out a laminated sheet from his pack. The plastic was worn, edges soft from years of handling. There are protocols here, he said. Not official Park Service rules, but local knowledge, things we've learned. Like what? Bear safety. Beyond that, he handed me the sheet. People who didn't follow these had problems. What kind of problems? The kind where we send search and rescue. Sometimes we find them, sometimes we don't. The sheet was titled the Numa Ridge Protocols. 7 rules, typed in careful block letters. 1. Never leave the tower between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., regardless of what you hear or see. If someone calls for help during these hours, radio dispatch but do not investigate until dawn. 2. Maintain salt lines at all thresholds. Replenish every 3 days or after rain. Use only iodized table salt, minimum 2-inch width. 3. If you hear wolves howling in harmony, 5 or more distinct voices, close all shutters immediately. Do not look outside until silence lasts 30 minutes. 4. Stock meat in the freezer at all times. Minimum 20 pounds. Check weekly. If meat disappears without explanation, replace it within 24 hours. 5. The trail to Akakala Lake is off limits after 6 p.m. If you see hikers heading that direction in late afternoon, warn them to turn back. Do not explain why. 6. If you wake to find your boots outside the door when you left them inside, do not wear them. Radio for replacement boots. Burn the originals. 7. Track all wildlife sightings in the log. If you see a white stag, note the exact time and location. Lock yourself inside until the next sunrise. Do not observe it directly. I read through them twice, then laughed. I couldn't help it. This is a joke, right? Some kind of hazing for new rangers. Tom's expression didn't change. No smile, no indication this was anything but deadly serious. I thought that too, first week. Come on, salt lines, don't look at white deer, this is superstition. Chen was a geologist, master's from Colorado State, smart guy. He thought it was superstition too. What changed his mind? Same thing that'll change yours, give it a week. I looked at the rules again. They read like something from a creepypasta forum, the kind of internet fiction designed to seem real. Specific details, bureaucratic formatting, that veneer of authenticity that masked obvious fiction. These make no scientific sense. No, Tom agreed. They don't, but they work. Work at what? He didn't answer, just checked his watch. Helicopter leaves in 20 minutes. I need to be on it. You're not staying the first night. I've done my time here, 3 years, that's enough. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Jake, listen. The rules exist because someone learned the hard way. Don't be the one who has to add a new rule. How often do you come back? Supply runs every 2 weeks, weather permitting. Satellite phone for emergencies. You do weekly check-ins on the radio. He paused. There are preset channels, Emergency only and never after dark. Use them accordingly. Maria was already starting the helicopter when Tom climbed in. She wouldn't look at me. "Good luck up here," she said, and it sounded like she meant it. The helicopter lifted off, rotors beating the thin mountain air. I watched it disappear over the ridge, the sound fading until there was nothing but silence. Absolute. Complete silence, not peaceful, waiting, like the forest was holding its breath. I looked down at the laminated rules in my hand. 7 impossible rules. 7 superstitious nonsense rules. The sun was touching the horizon. In 5 hours it would be 10 p.m. Rule 1 would activate. Never leave the tower between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. I told myself it was ridiculous. Told myself I'd follow the rules for the first week just to establish they were nonsense. Then I'd relax. This was hazing. Had to be. Some elaborate prank on the new guy. But my hands were shaking as I carried my supplies inside. The temperature was dropping fast. 58 degrees at 5:30, 42 by 6. The sun set late in Montana in late May, but when darkness came, it was absolute. I spent the next hour exploring while I still had light. 3 floors counting the observation deck. The main floor held monitoring equipment, a small kitchenette, the storage room and freezer. Second floor was living quarters, surprisingly comfortable. A cot with clean bedding, a small desk, bookshelves, the radio station with its preset channels clearly labeled. Third floor was the observation deck, glass on all sides for fire watching, with those heavy shutters that could seal it completely. Everything was clean, organized, professional, but there were odd details everywhere. Scratches on the doorframe like someone had been gripping it too hard. A coffee mug in the sink, mold growing inside. A jacket hanging on a hook with a name tag that read R. Chen. Photos in frames, but one space where a photo had been removed, the outline visible in the dust. In the desk drawer, I found a logbook, entries dating back months. The handwriting changed every few weeks, different rangers. The entries were routine at first. Weather conditions, wildlife sightings, equipment maintenance. Then halfway through March, the handwriting changed, became more erratic. Day 23, March 15th. Heard them again last night, getting closer. The salt line held, but I don't think. The entry ended mid-sentence. No more entries after that. Today was May 28th, 2.5 months of blank pages. I found a notebook under the mattress when I set up my sleeping bag. The handwriting was the same as those last log entries. Pages of dates circled, symbols sketched, words underlined multiple times. One page just said "they know" repeated 50 times. A photo fell out from between the pages. A man, Asian, maybe 30, standing in front of this tower with a woman and 2 small children. Everyone smiling. Normal, happy family photo. Chen had lasted 3 weeks. Left everything behind, including that photo. I checked the freezer again. 23 pounds of meat, still there, still frozen. The freezer was running fine, temperature holding steady at 0 degrees. 6:30. The sun was down now, just a faint glow on the western horizon. I made dinner, freeze-dried beef stew, trying to maintain some normalcy. The tower was quiet except for the occasional creak of wood settling. No wind, no animal sounds, nothing. At 7, I did my first radio check. Numa Ridge checking in, all clear, over. The response came immediately, a woman's voice. Copy Numa Ridge, sleep well, over. Sleep well, odd phrasing, not standard radio protocol. I set up my sleeping area. Sleeping bag on the cot, flashlight within reach, satellite phone charged. The rules were still on the desk where I'd left them. I read them again. Never leave the tower between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. 3 hours until curfew. I decided to humor the rules. Not because I believed them, but because I was tired, because Tom's fear had been genuine, because 17 people in 4 years seemed like a high turnover rate for what should be a quiet posting. I'd follow the protocols for a few days, prove they were unnecessary, then relax. I went through the tower with the roll of black trash bags and duct tape I'd found in storage, covered every reflective surface I could find. The bathroom mirror, the windows when they weren't shuttered, even the glass on the fire extinguisher cabinet. I felt ridiculous doing it, but I did it anyway. The basement door, I checked it 3 times. Locked. I wedged a doorstop under it for good measure, though I wasn't sure why a fire lookout tower even had a basement. Most were built on stilts or platforms. By 9:30, I'd run out of preparation tasks. I changed into sleeping clothes but kept them on instead of stripping down like I usually did. Put the radio within arm's reach. Made sure the satellite phone was close. These were excessive precautions and I knew it, but something about the silence outside was getting under my skin. The clock on the wall ticked toward 10 p.m. I watched the second hand sweep around. 59 seconds, 58, 57. At exactly 10 p.m., nothing happened. I waited. The tower remained quiet. No mysterious sounds. No supernatural manifestations. Just silence and the tick of the clock. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. See? Nothing. All that worry for nothing. Tomorrow I'd feel silly about covering mirrors and checking door locks. Then at 10:03, I heard footsteps. On the stairs, outside, coming up to the tower. Slow, measured, deliberate. One step every 5 seconds. The metal stairs rang with each impact. I froze in my sleeping bag, listening. My mind immediately tried to rationalize. An animal, had to be. A bear investigating the structure. But the footsteps were wrong, too rhythmic, too measured. Bears don't climb stairs like that. I counted, 15 steps from ground to first landing. The footsteps counted 15 exactly, then paused. My heart hammered against my ribs. I reached for the radio but stopped. Report what? That I heard footsteps. Tom would think I was already cracking. Rule 1. Never leave the tower between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. Do not investigate. But it didn't say I couldn't look. The footsteps resumed. Second flight of stairs, 10 steps, heading to my level. I sat up slowly, grabbed the flashlight but didn't turn it on. The footsteps reached the top platform, stopped directly outside my door. Silence for exactly 30 seconds. I counted them, each second stretching like taffy. Then 3 precise knocks. Knock, knock, knock. A pause. Knock, knock, knock. Human pattern, too human. A voice called out, young male, terrified. Hello, is anyone there? I'm lost, please, I need help. Every instinct I had screamed to help. This was my job. This was literally why I was here, to help people in trouble. Please, the voice continued. I've been hiking for hours, my GPS died, I saw your light. I moved toward the door, hand reaching for the lock. Rule 1. Do not leave between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. My hand stopped an inch from the doorknob. Please, I think I broke my ankle. I can't walk much further. The desperation sounded genuine. Real fear, real pain, but something made me pause. Hold on, I called through the door. I'm calling rescue, don't move. I grabbed the satellite phone. The voice outside responded immediately. No, please just let me in. It's cold, I'm freezing. It was 40 degrees outside. Cold, but not life-threatening for someone properly dressed for hiking. What's your name? I asked. Silence, 3 seconds of it. John Miller, please, I'm freezing. Where were you hiking from? Another pause. The lake trail, I got turned around. Akakala Lake, Rule 5 trail, the one that's off limits after 6 p.m. What time did you start? Pause again. This afternoon, please, can you just open the door? He wasn't answering the questions right. And no experienced hiker would take that trail in late afternoon, not this far into the backcountry. John, I'm calling rescue. Stay there, don't move. I crossed to the window, the one with the shutter I could peer through a crack. I couldn't see the door from this angle. I moved to another window, careful, quiet. There was a figure on the platform. I could just make it out in the darkness, standing wrong, too still. At 40 degrees I should see breath fog. There was none. "Please," the voice called again. "I'm freezing. I think I broke my ankle. I can't walk much further." The exact same words, exact same inflection, like a recording played back. My blood went cold. I aimed the flashlight through the crack in the shutter and turned it on. The beam caught the figure's face for just a second. Wrong, the features were blurred like a photograph out of focus. The eyes reflected the light like an animal's, green and bright, and the body didn't cast a shadow the right way. I jumped back from the window. The voice continued, cycling back to the beginning. "Hello, is anyone there? I'm lost. Please, I need help." Not human, couldn't be human. I backed away from all the windows, heart racing. The voice kept going. Running through its script. "What's your name?" Pause. John Miller, please, I'm freezing." Mechanical, precise. Like someone had recorded a dozen phrases and was playing them in order. I grabbed the radio, switched to the emergency-only channel. "Numa Ridge to dispatch. Possible situation. Over." Static. I tried again. "Dispatch, do you copy?" Nothing but static. I remembered what Tom had said. Preset channels, never after dark. I switched channels, found one labeled emergency night. The static cleared slightly. "Numa Ridge, maintain protocols." A calm voice responded immediately. "Do not engage. Confirm salt lines intact. Over." Someone had been waiting for this call, like they knew it would happen. "Salt lines intact," I confirmed. "There's something outside. Over." "Copy, do not engage. Maintain position. Over and out." The voice outside my door changed tactics. Now it was a woman's voice, and my entire body went rigid. Jake Morrison, it's Sarah." My ex-fiance's voice. Perfect. Every inflection, every tonal quality. Exact. "Jake, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about everything. I need to talk to you. Please let me in." This was emotional manipulation on a level that shouldn't be possible. Whatever was out there knew my name, knew Sarah's voice, knew exactly what would hurt me most. "I was wrong," Sarah's voice continued. "I believe you now about the data, about everything. Please, we can fix this." My throat tightened. That voice brought back everything. The relationship, the betrayal, the loneliness, every wound I'd been nursing for months. "Jake, I'm pregnant. It's yours. I need you." Impossible. We hadn't spoken in 8 months. Hadn't been together for longer. But God, it sounded like her. I went to the bathroom, turned on the sink, trying to drown out the voice. It didn't work. The sound penetrated anyway. "Jake Morrison, I know you can hear me." The tone changed. Colder now, not Sarah anymore. "You can't hide forever." Then scratching sounds on the door. Not knocking, scratching, like claws on metal, methodical, patient, testing the barrier. I sat in the corner farthest from any door or window. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Sweat ran down my back despite the cold. The clock showed 11:47, 6 hours and 13 minutes until 5 a.m. The voice cycled through people I knew. My mother, who'd been dead for 3 years. "Jakey, baby, I'm cold in the ground. Let me in where it's warm." My college roommate. "Dude, I'm locked out. Come on, don't be a dick." Tom Hendricks. "Morrison, this is your supervisor. Open the door, that's an order." Each voice perfect. Each knowing things only those people would know. Between the voices, the scratching continued, never stopping, rhythmic, wearing me down. At 3 a.m., the voices stopped mid-sentence. The scratching stopped. Absolute silence returned, somehow worse than the noise had been. I didn't move for 10 minutes, barely breathing. Then slowly I crept to a window, peered through the tiniest crack in the shutter. The platform was empty, no figure, No evidence anyone had been there. Morning frost had formed on the metal, delicate patterns of ice. If someone had been standing there all night, there should be footprints in the frost. There were none. At exactly 5 a.m., the radio crackled to life. Numa Ridge, this is dispatch. Morning check-in, how copy, over. Like nothing had happened. Like they didn't know. Or like they knew exactly what I'd been through and this was routine. Copy, I managed. My voice was hoarse. Numa Ridge here, over. Weather check at 0600, out. At 5:30, with the first gray light of dawn, I finally opened the door. The platform was empty. No tracks. No evidence of any visitor. Except the salt line at the threshold was disturbed. Not broken, but pushed against. Like something had tested it repeatedly, pressing from the outside. And the door had scratches. Fresh gouges in the metal. 4 parallel marks, deep enough to catch my fingernail. No animal I knew had claws that could gouge steel like that. I took photos with my phone, examined them from every angle. The evidence was undeniable. Something had been here, had tried to get in. The salt line had held. Rule 2 had saved my life. I found Chen's notebook again, the one hidden under the mattress. Added my own entry in shaking handwriting. Night 1. Rule 1 confirmed. Entity mimics voices. Perfect replication. Knows personal information. Will cycle through multiple people. Salt line at door repelled it. Door scratched. 4 parallel gouges half-inch deep in steel. Radio dead during prohibited hours except emergency channel. Dispatch aware said maintain protocols. This is known. This is regular. Question, what is it? I made coffee with trembling hands and watched the sunrise paint the mountains gold and pink. Beautiful, serene. The landscape showed no sign of what had happened in the darkness. But I knew now, the rules weren't superstition. They were survival instructions, written in someone else's terror. I had 6 more rules to verify. And if rule 1 was real, they all were. I radioed dispatch at 6 for the weather check. Reported conditions. Clear skies, temperature 36 degrees, winds light and variable. Normal routine. The dispatcher didn't ask about the night. Didn't mention the emergency channel call. Just confirmed my report and signed off. Professional distance, or practiced ignorance. I spent the morning forcing myself through routine tasks. Weather monitoring, fire watch, equipment checks. My hands still shook. I'd gotten maybe 2 hours of sleep and it had been fitful, full of voices calling my name. At 10 a.m., I broke my 8-month silence and called Sarah's number. It went to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. What would I say? That something had perfectly mimicked her voice last night while trying to trick me into opening a door. She called back 20 minutes later. Jake, what's wrong? Are you okay? Her voice was slightly different than the thing last night. Warmer, more uncertain. Real Sarah had always been uncertain about us, even before the scandal. The thing last night had been confident, manipulative. It had known which buttons to push, but it had guessed wrong about her being pregnant. I'm fine, I lied. Just wanted to hear your voice. How are you? I'm good, seeing someone new actually. Jake, why are you really calling? Just checking in. I'm in a remote area, wanted to touch base while I had signal. We talked for 5 minutes. Awkward, surface-level conversation. But it confirmed something crucial. Real Sarah was in Missoula, living her life. Definitely not pregnant, definitely not standing outside my door at 3 in the morning. Whatever had worn her voice was something else entirely. I spent the afternoon researching on my laptop, using the satellite internet connection. National Park Service records on Numa Ridge. Built in 1952, 17 rangers over 72 years. Only 5 had completed a full season. The turnover rate was astronomical compared to other fire lookouts. I dug deeper, found incident reports though the details were vague. 2 deaths, officially listed as exposure and fall, both during night hours. 3 disappearances never resolved. The last one was Mike Peterson in 1997. But there were older records if you knew where to look. I found academic papers on Montana folklore, references to Blackfeet oral history. The tribe had called this area where the voices live. They'd avoided it, especially at night. The warnings dated back centuries, long before any white settlers arrived. In 1873, a trapper's journal mentioned the ridge. Said his partner had disappeared one night after hearing his dead wife calling for him. The trapper himself refused to return. In 1920, a Forest Service report documented strange phenomena. Rangers hearing voices, seeing lights, finding impossible tracks. The report recommended the area be left undeveloped. In 1952, they built the tower anyway. The first ranger lasted 3 days before suffering what the report called a nervous breakdown. The second disappeared. The third was found dead, cause of death listed as bear attack, though the wounds didn't match any known bear species. Then James Whitehorse, a Blackfeet Ranger, agreed to serve. He lasted 30 years, retired in 1982. According to a footnote in the records, he had insisted on certain protocols being followed. The rules hadn't been written down officially, but they'd been passed ranger to ranger ever since. I found a phone number for Whitehorse, called it not expecting an answer. A woman picked up. "I'm looking for James Whitehorse," I said. "He passed 2 years ago. I'm his daughter." "Can I help you?" "I'm the new ranger at Numa Ridge. I found references to protocols he established. I wanted to understand them better." Long silence. "Then you're up there now?" "Yes." "Follow the rules exactly. Don't test them. Don't try to understand them. Just follow them." "But what are they? What's out there?" "My father called them the first ones. Said they were here before the ice ages, before the mountains rose. Older than our people, older than any human civilization. The land is theirs. We're visitors. The rules are the treaty that lets us stay." "A treaty with what?" "Things that don't translate well into human concepts. He said they're not evil, not good. They just are, like weather, like gravity. You don't negotiate with gravity. You just learn to work within its laws." "Did he ever see them?" "Once. He never described what he saw, just said that after that he understood why the rules mattered, why breaking them was death." She gave me her father's journals, offered to scan and email them. I gave her my email address, thanked her, hung up. The journals arrived an hour later. 70 pages of observations spanning 3 decades. Whitehorse had been methodical, scientific in his approach despite his traditional beliefs. He documented patterns, tested theories, refined the protocols. The rules had started as 3. By the time he retired, they were 7. Each rule added because someone had died or disappeared learning what didn't work. Rule 1 came from Mike Peterson's disappearance. He'd heard a child crying, went to investigate at 11:47 p.m. Never came back. His flashlight was found 200 yards from the tower, still on. No other trace. Rule 3 came from an incident in 2003. Ranger Lisa Yamada had looked outside during the harmonic howling. She'd survived but required psychiatric evacuation. Kept repeating, "I saw it, I saw the white one." Never returned to work. Rule 6 came from 2019. David Cross found his boots outside the door one morning. Thought it was weird but put them on anyway. Made it 3 steps before screaming. Other rangers heard it over the radio. Found him unconscious, second-degree burns on his feet despite the boots being normal temperature. He quit the same day. Every rule had been written in someone's suffering. By evening, I'd assembled a comprehensive picture. This wasn't folklore. This wasn't superstition. This was documented, repeated, consistent phenomenon spanning over a century. Something was here. Multiple somethings. Intelligent, adaptive, dangerous. And the rules were the only thing keeping rangers alive. As sunset approached, I prepared differently than the night before. I knew what was coming now. The psychological impact would be less because I understood it wasn't personal, wasn't about me specifically. These things tested everyone. I reinforced the salt lines, making them 4 inches wide instead of 2. Checked every shutter twice. Made sure I had supplies within reach so I wouldn't have to move around during the night. Ate an early dinner, used the bathroom, everything done before dark. The satellite phone I placed next to the radio, flashlight fully charged, water bottle filled. I even wrote a note just in case. If something happened, at least there would be a record. At 8:45, I was as ready as I'd ever be. Sitting on the cot, rules posted on the wall where I could see them, radio tuned to the emergency night channel. 9:17 p.m., the howling started. Distant at first. Wolves. I knew wolf vocalizations, had studied them for years. Recorded them, analyzed their patterns, published papers on their communication methods. This was different. 5 distinct voices in perfect harmony. Not a hunting call, not territorial declaration. This was something else. Musical almost, beautiful and deeply, fundamentally wrong. Rule 3. If you hear wolves howling in harmony, 5 or more voices, close all shutters immediately. They were already closed, but I checked anyway. Every single one latched tight. The howling grew louder. Now 7 voices. Then 9, coming closer. Wolves don't vocalize like this. They don't coordinate this perfectly. Each voice hit a different note, creating chords, harmonies that shouldn't exist in nature. I pulled out my phone, started recording. Evidence. Something to analyze later to prove this was real. The audio picked up something else underneath the howling. Patterns. Rhythm. Almost like language. I played it back, listening carefully. Syllables. Definitely syllables woven into the animal sounds. And they were forming words. My name. The wolves were howling my name. Jake Morrison. Stretched and distorted into animal sounds, but unmistakable once you heard it. The pack surrounded the tower. I could hear them circling, footsteps below, many of them. Coordinated movement, geometric precision, not natural pack behavior. I crept to a shutter, peered through the tiniest crack. Wolves below, 15, maybe 20, circling the tower in a perfect spiral pattern, but they were wrong, too large. Wolves in Montana average 80 to 100 pounds. These were easily twice that, and the proportions were off. Heads too large for the bodies, legs too long. Eyes caught the starlight, reflecting green instead of the typical yellow. And they moved with eerie synchronization, like dancers following choreography. One looked up directly at my viewing crack, made eye contact. Its face was wrong. The features were canine, but the expression was human. Intelligence that no wolf possessed, awareness, recognition. It knew I was watching. I jerked back from the shutter. At 10:34, the howling stopped. 3 minutes of absolute silence. Then impacts on the shutters, something hitting them, testing their strength. One window, then another. Systematic, checking every shutter for weak points. The west window shutter, the oldest one, began to bow inward. Wood creaking. I grabbed a hammer and nails from my supplies, approached the window carefully. I could hear breathing on the other side. Not wolf breathing. Too deliberate, too measured. I reinforced the shutter with wood planks, nailing them in place as quickly as I could. Whatever was outside pushed harder. The shutter bent further. I braced my back against it, pushing, but the strength on the other side was immense. I was losing. Then I remembered salt. I grabbed the container, poured salt along the window frame's interior. The effect was instantaneous. The pressure released. A sound from outside, not quite a growl, not quite a scream. Something in between. The entity retreated. The pack didn't leave, though. They changed tactics, scratching at the door, digging under the tower foundation, climbing the support structure, testing every possible entry point. I had to move constantly around the tower, reinforcing, salting, checking. No possibility of sleep. By 2 a.m. I was exhausted, and there were still 3 hours until dawn. I radioed dispatch on the emergency channel. Numa Ridge, under pressure, protocols holding, over. The response was immediate. Copy, maintain position, do not engage, sunrise in 4 hours 37 minutes, over. They were tracking exact sunrise time. This was coordinated. How many towers dealt with this? How many rangers were simultaneously fighting through their own nights? At 4:52, 8 minutes before official sunrise, all activity stopped. Instant, like a switch flipped. The howling ceased mid-note. Movement stopped. Then the sound of retreat. Many feet running fast, disappearing into the forest. By 5 a.m., silence was complete. I waited until 5:45 before opening the door. The evidence was everywhere. Tracks in the dirt around the tower, wolf prints but impossibly large. 14 inches long. Normal wolf tracks were 4 inches. Gouges in the support beams, fresh splinters. Gray fur caught on metal, but the texture was wrong, too coarse. And a dead raven on the platform. Neck cleanly broken, still warm. The bird hadn't been damaged otherwise, just the neck. Message, warning, offering. I had no idea. I documented everything with photos and notes. Updated Chen's notebook with detailed observations. Rule 3 confirmed. The entities could coordinate, could communicate, could execute complex strategies, but they were bound by something. The shutters held them. The salt repelled them. They had rules too, limitations. That was important. That meant this wasn't hopeless. Day 3, I focused on routine work. Weather monitoring showed a storm system approaching, due to arrive in 2 days. Fire watch revealed smoke from a controlled burn 30 miles southeast. Trail reports, I radioed in that the northern approach was clear. Southern approach still had snow at elevation. Normal ranger work, grounding, real. At 2 p.m., I went to check the freezer as part of my daily routine. Opened it. The meat was gone. All 23 pounds, vanished. The freezer was still running, still cold. No malfunction. Door had been closed. No sign of break-in. The meat had simply ceased to exist between yesterday and today. Rule 4. If meat disappears without explanation, replace within 24 hours. I radioed dispatch. Need supply drop, food stores compromised. Copy helicopter in 4 hours. Maintain protocols. They didn't ask how meat disappeared from a locked freezer in a sealed tower. They knew. Maria arrived at 6 p.m. with 50 pounds of meat, more than before. She handed it over through the door, wouldn't come inside. Maria, I said, what takes the meat? She looked at the forest. You don't want to know. I'm asking. Payment, tribute, whatever you want to call it, keeps them satisfied sometimes. Them. You've heard them, seen them, figure it out. What are they? Old, older than the park, older than us. The Blackfeet knew, we forgot, now we remember. She climbed back in the helicopter. Store the meat, check it weekly, good luck tonight. I stored all 50 pounds. Enough for what? How long? How often did it disappear? That night was different, not Rule 3 again, something new. At 11 p.m., scratching sounds came from below the floor. Inside the tower. Impossible. The foundation was solid. But the sound was unmistakable. Something beneath me moving close. At midnight, a voice started. Not outside this time. Inside the tower from below. Sarah's voice. Jake, I'm downstairs. I came to see you. Let me up. There was no downstairs. Only storage, and I checked it thoroughly. No one could be there. I didn't respond. The voice continued its manipulation, hitting every emotional trigger with surgical precision. Pregnant, believing me, wanting to fix things. Each phrase carefully chosen to maximize pain. Then crying, soft, desperate, feminine, every instinct screamed to help. The voice multiplied. My mother, my father, my thesis advisor. each targeting different guilt, different shame, different failure. At 10:45, the floor began to bulge. Center of the room. Wood warping upward 6 inches, 8 inches, a foot, cracking, splintering. A hand emerged through the floor. Female, pale, delicate. Sarah's hand. I knew it. The small scar on her thumb from a kitchen accident years ago. The hand groped, searching. Sarah's voice from below. Jake, help me up. I'm stuck, please. The hand beckoned. I was 2 feet away, could reach out, could touch. She needed help. She was in trouble. I'd failed her before, hadn't fought for the relationship, had accepted blame, had given up. Wouldn't fail again. My hand extended, fingers inches from hers. Then I saw it, the scar. It was on the wrong side. Sarah's scar was on her right thumb, left side. This scar was on the right side, mirror image. Imperfect copy. I jerked back. The voice changed instantly. No more pleading. So close. Different voice. Not Sarah, not human. Neutral, cold, ancient. The hand transformed. Fingers elongated. Skin darkened. Nails became claws. It snatched at the air where I'd been, missing by inches. Then it withdrew, sinking back through the floor. The wood sealed behind it like water closing. No evidence of the break. Except my racing heart, the sweat soaking my clothes, the knowledge that I'd been seconds from touching it. What would have happened? Pulled down through the floor, taken to wherever that hand had come from, disappeared like Mike Peterson. I collapsed in the corner, shaking uncontrollably, almost broke, almost gave in. This is how they won, not through force, through manipulation, finding weakness, exploiting love and guilt and shame. It had nearly worked. I grabbed the radio. Dispatch, I almost. The words wouldn't come. The dispatcher's voice was calm. It's okay. We know everyone almost breaks. That's why we're here. You're not alone. How do you do this? How do any of you do this? One night at a time. One rule at a time. You're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. You didn't touch it. That's strength. Get through tonight. We'll talk tomorrow. It was the first compassionate conversation I'd had with dispatch. First acknowledgement that others were fighting the same fight. Different towers, different locations, same entities, same rules. A network of rangers, all holding the line. The rest of the night passed quietly. The entity had tried its best shot and failed. It wouldn't try again tonight, but it had learned. Next time it would adapt, adjust, find new weaknesses. They always did. Dawn came eventually. It always did. I'd survived night 3, but I was changed. This wasn't about proving myself anymore. Wasn't about science or understanding. It was about endurance, about holding a boundary between worlds, about protecting hikers who would never know what shared these mountains with them. Purpose was crystallizing, but could I maintain it? 4 more rules untested, weeks left in the season, and the entities getting smarter every night, learning more about me. I made it through days 4 through 7 in a haze of exhaustion and routine, weather monitoring, fire watch, trail maintenance when I could safely leave the tower during daylight hours. I met hikers twice, a couple from Seattle heading to Numa Peak, a solo backpacker photographing wildflowers. I warned them both about the Akakala Lake Trail. Don't go after 6 p.m., trail hazard. They asked what hazard. I said rockfall zone, dangerous after dark. They accepted it, thanked me, moved on. Normal interactions. Reality restored during daylight. Then sunset came and reality fractured again. Night 4, I woke at 2:15 a.m. to find my boots outside the door. I'd left them beside my cot, inside where I always left them. Now they sat on the platform, placed neatly side by side. Rule 6. Do not wear them. Radio for replacement boots. Burn the originals. I radioed immediately. Dispatch arranged a drop for first light. I took the boots to the clearing at dawn, poured gasoline on them, lit them. When the flames hit the leather, the boots screamed. Not the sound of air escaping or material combusting. screaming. Human voices, multiple voices, trapped inside the boots, burning. The sound lasted 15 seconds before fading to normal fire crackle. I stumbled away and vomited into the grass. Something had been in those boots, waiting. If I'd put them on, if I'd slid my feet inside. I didn't let myself finish the thought. Night 5 through 7, various phenomena, lights in the forest, voices calling, scratching, the now familiar tactics. I was getting used to them, learning patterns, managing fear, but the cumulative effect was devastating. I'd slept maybe 15 hours total in 7 days, lost 10 pounds. My hands shook constantly, shadows in my peripheral vision that vanished when I looked directly. On day 8, I checked the calendar, noticed something I'd missed before. New moon, tonight. I found Mike Peterson's journal again. Read his entry. New moon is worst. Entities are strongest. Every ranger who quit did it after new moon. Every disappearance happened on new moon. I radioed Tom for the morning check. His voice was tense. Tonight is different, Jake. New moon, they're strongest then. If it gets too bad, call for evacuation. No shame in it. I'm not quitting. Surviving isn't quitting. I'll make it through. All right, but Jake, listen. Whatever you see, whatever you hear, remember it's not real. They'll show you things. Things that look real feel real. Don't trust any of it. I spent the day preparing like it was a siege. Double salt lines, triple check on shutters, extra supplies within reach. I even fashioned crude weapons, a hammer, a knife, knowing they'd be useless but needing the psychological comfort. 6 p.m., sunset. The temperature dropped dramatically, 55 degrees to 28 in 30 minutes. Unseasonable, wrong. Wind picked up, howling through the peaks, but my weather station showed a storm coming, though the forecast had been clear. The sky turned a wrong color, green tinge to the clouds. I watched from the tower as deer ran east, entire herds fleeing. Birds flew away in massive flocks. Even insects disappeared. The forest emptied like an evacuation. The animals knew they were getting out. By 7 p.m., complete darkness. New moon meant no lunar light. Clouds blocked the stars. Visibility was zero beyond the tower lights. I turned off the external lights, made myself a harder target. Sat in darkness, waiting. The silence was absolute. No wind. Pressure in my ears like rapid altitude change. Something was coming. At 8 p.m. exactly it began. Impact massive. The entire tower shook. Something had hit it from below. Not wind, physical impact like a battering ram. Again, rhythmic pounding every 10 seconds. The foundation shaking, equipment falling. Pictures sliding off walls, metal groaning, support beams flexing. The tower was built to withstand winds of 100 miles per hour, built to survive earthquakes. This was testing those limits. Between impacts scratching all around, hundreds of sources, surrounding me, climbing the structure, getting higher. Windows shuttered, shutters bowed inward. I ran between floors, reinforcing, salting, creating barriers, but I couldn't be everywhere. The attacks were coordinated, faint on the west window while the real assault came at the east door. They were using tactics, strategy. At 9:30, new approach. Sounds penetrated the tower. Music, familiar music. The song Sarah and I had chosen for our wedding dance. Her favorite band, playing from everywhere and nowhere. The walls vibrated with it. Under the music, laughter, children laughing, wrong pitch, too synchronized, mocking. Then smells. Sarah's perfume. Impossible smell can't penetrate a sealed tower. My mother's cooking, the pot roast she made every Sunday. Gasoline from my father's garage. Sense triggering memories, emotional responses. Psychological warfare targeting every sense. Temperature swings. Hot 90 degrees in seconds, cold 20 degrees instantly, back and forth. My body couldn't adapt, sweating and shivering simultaneously, disorienting, nauseating. They were attacking every sense, trying to overwhelm me, break down reality, confuse me enough to make a mistake. At 11 p.m., the voices returned, dozens simultaneously, everyone I'd ever known, all talking at once, overlapping chaos. Then they synchronized, all voices speaking in unison. Jake Morrison, come out, we've been patient, time is up. Hundreds of voices, one message. Then individual again. Mother, father, Sarah, brother, colleagues, friends, everyone demanding entry, all perfectly mimicked. I covered my ears, didn't help. The sound was inside my head. They were creating urgency, panic, trying to make me act without thinking. I forced myself to breathe, to count, to focus. Rule 1, never leave, never leave, never leave. Mantra anchored to sanity. At 1 a.m., my perceptions began fragmenting. Sleep deprivation plus sensory assault equals hallucination territory. I saw things that couldn't be real. My dead mother standing in the corner inside the tower. Sarah sitting on my bed. Walls breathing. Floor tilting. I knew they weren't real, but they looked real. I touched Sarah's hand. It felt solid. She smiled. See, I'm really here. You can trust your senses. But I remembered Rule 6, boots that screamed. Nothing was trustworthy. I closed my eyes, refused to look. If I couldn't trust sight, I wouldn't use it. Navigated by touch, counted steps, mapped the tower in darkness. The entities grew frustrated. I could hear it in their voices. They needed me to see, to believe, to engage. At 2:30, a new presence arrived, different from the others. Older, stronger, I felt it before seeing. The air pressure changed. Gravity shifted. I opened my eyes, a mistake. Outside the window, through the shutter gap, white glow. The stag. Rule 7. If you see a white stag, lock yourself inside, don't observe directly. But I was already inside, already observing, too late. The stag stood in the clearing below, perfectly white, enormous, elk-sized, antlers like trees, glowing with its own light, beautiful and terrible. It looked up, made eye contact through the window gap. I couldn't look away, locked in its gaze, compulsion, pull, magnetic. The stag's mouth opened. My brother's voice emerged. My brother who died at 7, who drowned while I was supposed to be watching him. Jake, I've been waiting so long, I'm cold, I'm alone, come down, be with me. The guilt I'd carried for 25 years, the wound that never healed. I'd turned away for 1 minute, just 1 minute, and he'd gone under. My hand moved to the door, unlocking it, not a conscious decision. My body was moving on its own. The stag calling, my brother calling, redemption calling, a chance to fix the oldest, deepest mistake. Door half open, I was on the stairs, moving toward the stag, autopilot. Then pain, sharp burning my hand. I looked down, salt line, I'd crossed it. My feet were on fire, salting cuts I hadn't noticed. The pain broke the trance. Clarity returned like cold water. I looked at the stag again, really looked. The eyes were too human. The mouth moved wrong for speech. The antlers had symbols carved into them, the same symbols Chen had sketched, and the body proportions shifted when I wasn't looking directly at it. Not a deer wearing a deer shape, a costume. Underneath was something else entirely. I stumbled backward into the tower, slammed the door, locked it. The stag didn't move, just watched, waiting. The voice changed, not my brother anymore. You saw, you know now, we'll be waiting, Jake Morrison. You can't stay inside forever. Threat and promise. The stag turned, walked into the forest. Its light faded. Darkness returned. From 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., all entities threw everything at me simultaneously. Pounding, voices, apparitions, temperature swings, smells, sounds. Everything at once. Overwhelming. I curled in fetal position, hands over ears, eyes closed, reciting the rules allowed to drown out the voices. Never leave between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. Maintain salt lines. 5 or more wolf voices, close shutters. Over and over, anchoring myself to protocol. The tower shook. I was certain it would collapse, certain I would break. But neither did. Structure and man both held. At 4:55, everything peaked, crescendo of chaos. Then silence, instant like a switch flipped. 5 am exactly. The entities were gone, retreated, they'd failed. I'd survived. I didn't move for 10 minutes, afraid to believe it was over. Finally opened my eyes. The tower was intact, equipment damaged but functional, salt lines disturbed but they'd held. Evidence everywhere, claw marks on every surface, frost on the interior windows impossible, scorch marks on the floor though there'd been no fire, my feet bleeding from salt burns, and my hair, when I looked in the bathroom mirror after the sun rose, had turned gray at the temples. It had been dark brown yesterday. I'd aged overnight. My face in the mirror was different, older, eyes different. I'd seen too much, been changed fundamentally. I radioed dispatch. Numa Ridge, survived new moon, continuing assignment, over. Long pause, then, copy Numa Ridge, well done. You're the first in 3 years to get through new moon and stay, over. First in 3 years. I wasn't sure if that was an achievement or evidence of insanity. But I'd made a decision during that endless night. I could call for evacuation now, no shame in it. I'd proved whatever I needed to prove, or I could continue. Something had changed during the new moon, broken something or forged something. I wasn't the man who'd arrived 8 days ago, weaker in body but stronger in something else. Understanding, purpose. I knew now what this was really about. Days 9 through 12, I continued the routine, but I was different. I could see patterns clearly now. The entities tested boundaries but never crossed them. Salt lines were absolute barriers. They adapted tactics but couldn't break their own rules. They were bound by the same contract as rangers. Intelligence was ancient but not omnipotent. They made mistakes, could be fooled. They wanted acknowledgement more than harm, needed humans to see them, validate their existence. Not evil, amoral, alien logic, territory holders. Humanity was the intrusion. The rules were compromise. You can stay if you respect our sovereignty. I researched during the day using satellite internet, found academic papers on folklore, similar phenomena worldwide, skinwalkers among the Navajo, Wendigo in Algonquin territory, Fae in Celtic lands, Yakai in Japan. All had rules, all had territories, all predated human civilization. Theory formed. What if they were all real, different manifestations of the same ancient presence? First inhabitants of Earth, driven to the margins by humanity's expansion. National parks, wilderness areas, their last refuges. They tolerated us if we followed protocol. The contract wasn't a Park Service invention. It was an ancient treaty, renewed each generation. I analyzed why each rule worked. Rule 1, time restriction, they were bound to darkness. Rule 2, salt disrupted their molecular structure or energy field. Rule 3, harmonic howling made them strongest, shudders broke their line of sight. Rule 4, meat was tribute, acknowledgement of their priority. Rule 5, Akakala Lake had higher concentration. More dangerous even with precautions. Rule 6, they could inhabit objects, needed contact to transfer. Rule 7, the white stag was most powerful, direct observation created permanent link. The rules weren't random. They were precise negotiations, each clause in a contract. Violate one, the contract nullified, all protections voided. Survival mechanism and diplomatic protocol combined. I read all previous Rangers' notes again, saw the chain clearly. Each person had added something, refined understanding, improved survival odds for whoever came next. This wasn't individual struggle. It was generational knowledge transfer. Mike Peterson documented the meat pattern in Akakala Lake danger. Lisa Yamada found historical context and the Blackfeet connection. David Cross identified the white stag marking mechanism. Robert Chen located the cave and mapped territory boundaries. Now my contribution had to be added. On day 10, I began comprehensive documentation, details of each night, entity behaviors, patterns, weaknesses, effective countermeasures, psychological preparation needed, survival strategies. Writing for the person who would come after me, knowing there would be someone. There was always someone. Rangers kept coming because the job mattered, protecting hikers, maintaining the contract that kept entities contained to wilderness areas. If rangers abandoned towers, the contract broke. Then what? Would entities spread, expand territory? I couldn't let that happen. Day 15, supply drop. Maria landed the helicopter surprised. You're still here. After new moon, most quit. I'm staying. Why? You've proved whatever you needed to prove. I thought about it. At first, I needed this job, needed to prove I wasn't a failure, but now I understand what this is, what we're doing here. Someone has to hold the line, someone has to remember the rules. If not me, then who? Maria nodded slowly. That's what Whitehorse said, first ranger who truly understood. He served 30 years. Did he ever get used to it? No, but he found purpose in it, said it was an honor, sacred duty. You see it that way. I'm starting to. She handed me supplies. Tom's message. You can transfer to an easier posting if you want. Numa Ridge is the hardest assignment in the park. I'm staying the season. After that, we'll see. Tom's voice crackled over the radio Maria patched through. Jake, you don't have to do this. You've done enough. I haven't, though. I'm just starting to understand. Understand what? Why it matters, why we're here, why the rules exist. This isn't punishment, it's privilege. We're guardians of something important. Long silence. All right, you've got it. Call if you need anything, and Jake, thank you. First time Tom had thanked me. Recognition from someone who knew what it cost. I created a comprehensive manual over the next few days. Numa Ridge Survival Guide, updated June 2025, included all 7 rules with detailed explanations. Night-by-night breakdown of phenomena patterns. New moon preparation checklist. Psychological coping strategies. Entity identification guide with sketches. Salt line specifications. Radio protocols. Emergency procedures. Chen's Cave location with warning, don't go alone. White Stag Protocol Addendum. If marked, entities will fixate on you. They never forget. Extra vigilance required permanently. Personal notes. To whoever reads this, you're not crazy. This is real. Trust the rules. Trust yourself. You can survive this. The first week is hardest. Your mind will reject what you see. Accept it faster saves sanity. Remember, they're intelligent but bound by the same rules. Level playing field. You're not alone. Other rangers fight the same fight. Different towers, same entities. We're a network holding the line. Find your purpose. Mine was redemption. Yours will be different, but you need one. Purpose sustains when fear paralyzes. I hid the manual in the floorboard compartment with the other journals. Updated Chen's map with new information. Added my warnings. Legacy for the next ranger. Week 3, day 21. I was settling into rhythm. Nights still terrifying but manageable. I had routines, coping mechanisms, purpose. The entities still attacked, but I'd learned their patterns. Stalemate. They couldn't break rules to reach me. I wouldn't break rules to give them access. Equilibrium, uneasy but stable. Tom radioed that morning. Jake, situation, need experienced ranger consultation. New tower opening, flat top mountain sector. They found things. Similar to Numa Ridge. Maybe connected. Would you share your documentation? There are more places like this. 7 towers in Glacier alone. Dozens across the national park system. Numa Ridge is most active but not unique. You've documented patterns better than anyone in years. Could help others. I realized this was bigger than one tower, entire park system, Hundreds of rangers, all fighting the same fight. Different entities, same rules. Network larger than I'd imagined. Send them my notes, whatever helps. Thank you, and Jake. After your season, if you want, there's a coordinator position. Help train new rangers, share knowledge, interested. I looked at the mountains through the window. Maybe, let me finish here first. Fair enough, stay safe. That evening, day 21, I watched sunset from the observation deck. 3 weeks survived. 9 weeks remaining in the season. Could I make it? I didn't know, but I would try. I wasn't the same person who'd arrived, changed fundamentally, saw things that broke my old worldview, built new understanding. Lost certainty, innocence, peace. Gained purpose, knowledge, strength. Fair trade, time would tell. I thought about Sarah, my old life, who I'd been. It felt distant, like different persons' memories. This was who I was now, guardian, keeper of rules, holder of the line. Night was approaching. Protocols were automatic now. Salt lines checked, shutters secured, meat stocked, radio tested, mind prepared. Whatever came tonight, I'd face it. Whatever came this season, I'd endure it. And when the season ended, maybe I'd leave, return to normal life. Maybe I'd stay, serve another season. Maybe I'd take the coordinator role, train others. Future uncertain, but tonight was certain. I knew what was coming, and I was ready. 10 p.m. Darkness fell. I sat in the tower, rules on the wall, radio crackling. Outside, movement began, familiar now, entities gathering, starting their nightly ritual, testing boundaries, seeking weakness. They wouldn't find it, not tonight. I whispered to the darkness, "Come on then, let's see what you've got." First scratch on the door, first voice calling, another night began. And somewhere in another tower, another ranger fought the same fight. And somewhere, a new ranger was being recruited, told about unusual circumstances, given a list of rules they wouldn't believe. Until they did. The cycle continued, always had, always would. As long as wilderness existed, as long as humans intruded on ancient territories, as long as rangers held the line. The contract remained, the rules protected, the night tested. And morning came, always, eventually, morning came. I survived that night, and the next, and the next. Week 4 brought new challenges. A severe storm that lasted 3 days, lightning strikes close enough to shake the tower, winds at 80 miles per hour. During storms, the entities were quieter. They didn't like the electrical activity. I learned that, added it to my notes. Week 5, a group of hikers got lost, radioed for help at 4 p.m. I guided them to safety before 6, before the Akakala Lake Trail became dangerous. They never knew what I'd saved them from. Week 6, the meat disappeared again. I restocked within 12 hours. No incidents that night. The tribute worked. Week 7, I saw the white stag again, distant on a far ridge. I looked away immediately, locked myself inside even though it was daytime. Better safe. It watched the tower for 6 hours before leaving. I felt its attention like physical weight. Week 8, I realized I'd been here 2 months, 8 weeks, longer than anyone in 3 years. The Ranger Network, I learned about them through coded radio chatter, towers across the park system. We never spoke directly about what we faced, but we knew. We all knew. Week 9, Tom visited personally, helicopter landing for a supply drop. He looked at me, saw the gray in my hair, the weight I'd lost, the eyes that had seen too much. "You've lasted longer than I did," he said quietly. "I made it 6 weeks before I requested transfer." "How long were you here?" 3 years, came back every season. 6 weeks each time, told myself it was enough, but it wasn't. Someone had to do the full season. No one has since Whitehorse retired. "I'm going to finish," I said. "I believe you will. You understand it now, the purpose. Most rangers never do. They see it as punishment, as horror to endure. You see it as duty." Sacred duty, I corrected. That's what Whitehorse called it. Tom smiled, first time I'd seen him smile. Yeah, sacred duty. You're going to be okay, Jake. Better than okay. After this, there's a job waiting. Coordinator position, training rangers, sharing what you've learned. Think about it. I did think about it. Through weeks 10 and 11 as the season wound toward its end. Late August in the mountains meant weather turning, nights getting longer, first hints of fall in the air. The entities seemed to know the season was ending. Their attacks grew less frequent but more intense, like they were making final attempts, testing one last time. Week 12, final week of my assignment. The attacks stopped completely on day 82, just stopped. The nights became quiet, normal quiet, not the waiting quiet. I knew what it meant. They'd accepted me, recognized I would follow the rules, would maintain the contract. I was no longer an intruder to be driven out. I was the guardian, and they acknowledged it. On my last day, day 84, I packed my belongings, updated the manual one final time, added my conclusion. To whoever reads this, I served the full season, 84 days and nights. I learned what the others learned. The entities are real. The rules are absolute. Your life depends on following them exactly. But I also learned something more. This isn't horror. It's responsibility. We're not victims. We're guardians. The boundary between the old world and the new, between what was here first and what came after. The entities aren't monsters. They're the original inhabitants. We're the visitors. The rules are the treaty that lets us coexist. Follow them, respect them, understand what they represent. And know that you're not alone. We're a network, a line of guardians stretching across the wilderness, each one holding their section. Together, we maintain something important, something ancient, something necessary. You can do this. I did. You will too. And when your season ends, pass the knowledge forward. That's how this works. That's how it's always worked. Jake Morrison, Ranger, Numa Ridge Tower, summer 2025. Maria arrived with the helicopter at noon. Tom was with her. They both looked surprised when I walked out, healthy enough, sane enough, whole enough. You made it, Tom said. I made it. Full season, first time in 43 years. Whitehorse set a high bar. You just matched it. Tom handed me a folder. Coordinator position. Starts in 2 weeks if you want it. Train the next generation. Teach them the rules. Keep them alive. I took the folder. Looked back at the tower one last time. It stood against the mountain, solid and strong, waiting for the next guardian. I'll take it, I said. Someone has to teach them. The helicopter ride back to civilization felt surreal. Missoula appeared below, streets and buildings and people living normal lives. They had no idea what existed in the wilderness around them. What old powers still held territory in the forgotten places. They didn't need to know. That's what guardians were for. I started the coordinator position 2 weeks later. First assignment was training a new ranger for Numa Ridge. Her name was Rebecca Torres, 34, former Marine, looking for purpose after leaving the service. I gave her the rules, watched her read them, saw the skepticism in her eyes. These are a joke, right? She asked. I smiled. I'd said the same thing. No joke, you'll understand in a week. This is superstition. It's survival, trust me. Follow them exactly. She didn't believe me. Not yet, but she would. They always did. I sent her to Numa Ridge on a September morning. Watched the helicopter disappear over the mountains. Knew what she was about to face. But she'd survive. She'd learn, she'd understand. And when her season ended, she'd pass the knowledge forward. That's how it worked, generation to generation, guardian to guardian. The old contract, maintained by those who understood its necessity. I had found my purpose, not in the career I'd lost, not in the relationship that had failed, but here, in this strange duty, this sacred responsibility. teaching others to hold the line, to maintain the boundary, to remember the rules. The wilderness kept its secrets. The first ones remained in their territories, and we, the guardians, stood between the old world and the new, making sure both could coexist, making sure the contract held. One ranger at a time, one season at a time, one night at a time. Forever. That's my story. I'm Jake Morrison. I survived Numa Ridge, and now I help others do the same. The rules are real, the entities are real, the danger is real. But so is the purpose, so is the duty, so is the honor of being chosen to guard the boundary. If you ever take a posting in the backcountry, if you're ever given a list of strange rules, if you're ever told about protocols that make no sense, follow them, trust them. They were written in blood and terror and hard-won experience. They'll keep you alive, just like they kept me alive. And maybe, like me, you'll find that surviving isn't the point. Understanding is, purpose is, becoming a guardian is. The mountains are still there, the entities are still there, and the rangers are still there holding the line. I'm one of them now, and I wouldn't have it any other way.